Yeah, well, I would argue most learning development programs are broken. So let's try to fix it, and gaming might be a way to do that.
Another podcast.
So we've used two terms on this. Exactly. We have used two terms that we want to kind of distinguish: gaming and gamification. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So gaming of itself, it's just a type of play. And usually when you're talking about gaming, you usually think more video gaming, computer-based gaming. And gaming is play that usually has rules or parameters and sometimes can have a definitive end. Gamification is just the word game with TION suffix at the end, is when you take game-like elements and you add it to something that isn't traditionally a game. So something that's not traditionally a game is the learning experience. So gamification is when you take your learning and add those game-like elements. That's all.
So, one thing, it's interesting that that's how you define that too, because it's often, I always kind of chuckle anytime a client asks me about gaming or gamification, because nobody really knows what they're asking for in either of those. I've seen the learning development field kind of land on, because I agree with your definition completely, but I've seen it kind of land on gamification is more of like badges for completing stuff. So it's more like what you do. Why'd you react? What's wrong with those? Or is it good? What was your reaction?
Oh, sorry. I do want to hear the rest of your thought, but yes, badges, yes, they are extremely popular. And again, that is what I was talking about earlier about passive gaming elements. Yeah. When they are used correctly and with other active elements, it can be a very fun experience. But a lot of times when it's only those passive elements, like earning badges, can be a bit detrimental and boring.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm glad you reacted that way, because that's
I hear badges. I'm like,
but that's what we get asked for more often is what, again, the industry kind of landed on gamification being what happens in an LMS to reward people for completing things, which has its place. And I agree with you. And I agree with your reactions. Like that's what people were generally asking. But I love how you defined it. Gaming is something that's actually not learning. And gamification is what we do in the learning. Because I think that's kind of goes back to our other conversation about bad reputation, is that I've certainly got feedback from folks that, well, they're just going to be playing. And I'm like, yeah, but I know you don't like that because you're paying them. But yes, because ultimately they're going to learn through this play. But I think if we can, it's interesting to shift from maybe not even using the word gaming and talk about it from we are gamifying the learning experience. Maybe that could kind of tear down that we're just playing standpoint. So I love how you define that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the best part is that when they say, oh, I guess they're just playing, and you're like, yeah, they are. And they're choosing to play, and they happen to be learning at the same time. This is so insane. But that's what we do. And that's how we make learning happen. It sounds a little tricky, but you're kind of tricking them into learning something while they just happen to be playing something. When you think about gaming in itself and video games, there's people out there giving companies their money to play these games, and they're taking time out of their own day to do it and play these games. So why not tap into that and instead have them learn something that you need them to learn for your company or for your business?
Now, Alex, I always love talking about these learning development things because it kind of triggers my excitement around this stuff. That, I mean, this, because with what you just said, I kind of saw two sides of this. It's like, you're right. When people get addicted to games. But the scary part is they are actually learning. If this idea that we're talking about is true, that people learn through play, that when people are playing these like crazy, actual research shows it, right? People who play violent games are typically more violent just because they have learned something through that process. And so as we're thinking about incorporating gaming or gamification, if we all want to start to shift the conversation specifically to that, all we're doing is tapping into the natural way people learn. It is so crazy to me that we put kids in a classroom or adults in a classroom and make learning the complete opposite of what it naturally is. We just wrote a blog that's going to come out, I don't know, next week or the week after, where we titled it, "To Learn is to Human." Because the learning experience is such a human, it's the most one of the most fundamental human conditions that we are constantly learning. And if you just do it naturally, you do it through fun. You try to have a way to make it fun. And, I always love when clients reach out to us like, can you make it fun? Of course we can, but not the way you think. We're not going to do it the way you think. We're going to tap into the natural way people learn and make that, the fact that we're doing that is what makes it fun. And then if you want to do some of those other things where you have like what you're talking about, these gaming elements, it takes that fun even further and it's more structured and it deepens that learning. And the greatest thing is addiction to learning, right? You call it motivation, but in a lot of ways when you create games, do it right, you are getting people addicted to learning, which is basic. So last question, any tips you have? So again, let's talk to the learning development professionals right now that maybe they have never played with gaming or gamification, but same thing people have asked for. And then after this podcast, people are going to be inspired and they're going to change. They're going to be like, I need to make learning fun. So what are some tips you can offer folks who are in that place of like, I want to start bringing fun to the learning experience that I'm creating?
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're not like me and you don't happen to have 5 different gaming consoles in your home and you don't know where to start, but you want to add some gaming elements to your learning process, first, Google popular gamification elements, popular game learning elements. And I want you to see what everyone's thinking when it comes to learning and gaming. Because Jason and I were already talking earlier about how typically developers tend to fall into a trap of just using timers, badges, and what else do we say? Progress bars. Now, after you've familiarized yourself with some of those terms, it should only take you like 1 or 2 minutes. You don't have to go that deep into it. Excuse me. Look up what are some popular games right now? What are some popular video games that are popular because of their gameplay, because of the experience? And don't look at all of the graphics and don't really look at the storyline, but look at the interaction for what it is for itself and try to pull out from that and people's feedback of what it is that they like so much about that game. And then try to think of how you could be able to incorporate that into your next learning experience. And whenever you consider gaming, don't attack it from the front and think, I need to create a game and they have to learn at the same time. Instead, always start with your learning objectives. As you already know, most of us educators are always saying, begin with the end in mind. So create your normal learning plan and then go back through and really challenge yourself to think, where can I sneak in those little gamified moments for the learner? And the more you do that, the more, the easier it'll come to you after a while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are great pieces. And so Alex and I had an opportunity to work together on what ended up being a game, but we designed it as a simulation for kind of a manager who's got a lot of things coming at him or her throughout the day, and they needed to respond to those various things. And so we had a ton of gaming elements, but we sold it as a simulation. So it wasn't like we were able to overcome some of the resistance of it's just playing, but literally it's a play. Like they played the entire time. Things were coming at them. They had to do things. But I think taking what Alex just said and adding that piece of just follow the outcomes and like, don't create a game for the sake of a game. If the outcomes lead to the game, make it. Or, if you want to create a thing and then say, hey, we could gamify this, then do that at the back end too. So I think this has been, this again, when I talk with Alex, we could go on for hours and hours talking about learning development. Alex, I always love talking to you about this stuff. So I appreciate you joining us for this episode and offering your insights. Been a ton of fun, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up so that we can let everybody else get back to their lives. But thank you very much for being here.